under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sorry. Oh, I was in your way.
Okay, administrative business.
Okay, I have the minutes of September 16th. And then I found out this morning that I had a typo and an error in the September 20 minutes. So I did do a revision to those, which is on the table. I had misspelled the name of Sean McMullen. It's supposed to be S-E-A-N. And then the official name of the company, I had just put Aries, but I didn't have any of the information. And I received an email from Pat Pelstring when I asked him my question about the company name, and he gave me the correct company name, which I have put in the revision. So we can either, if you want to approve the September 20, that's fine, or if you would rather wait until the next meeting, that's up to you. But I have the minutes of September 16th, and then amended minutes for September 20.
Do you have a question?
Well, I do have a question on what you were just talking about on the 20th, and it's probably irrelevant, but I did notice up at the top where you have the listing of all the people who attended that meeting. You do not have actually Pat Pelstring nor Mr. McMullen up there, and it's odd that they gave a presentation, but yet they're not listed. I do see that you have other members of the public, but knowing that they're there, I assume their name should be up top.
Generally, when they're giving a presentation or they're part of the meeting, I don't put them at the top. I put them at their agenda time.
Okay. I never noticed that. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I generally do.
Okay. I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the September 16th minutes as written.
Second.
Moving second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. September, I'll go ahead and make a motion then to approve the September 20th minutes as written.
A second.
Moving second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, the next thing that we have are change orders. There are change orders and supplements. The change orders require signatures. In your packets, you had information about the appraiser and their compliance with the state standards. And the information does indicate that they have complied with the state standards for appraisal.
You got a chance to review that? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, the next thing that I have in your packets is in regard to the table, the furniture for the room. And we had gotten several custom type ideas and estimates, and we talked about that before. It was pretty pricey to go that route, so we looked at some modular furniture. And so that's what's in your packet. The option one, let me see if I can, basically it's still an L shape. You would have you'd have four board members on the long side. We have it where there would be one, which could potentially be the chair on the corner, and then two seats over here like we have now. And so that is the first option. These are little pencil drawers that I asked them to put in for you. It's basically a flat drawer right in front of you that you can pull out, so you can put like your tissues or some papers. It's not like a file cabinet, but it's just a nice little drawer right in your lap basically, which would be handy. And you can see that everyone in this layout would be able to have their own drawer. We did ask them to provide it in basically the color of the table that we had in here before, which matches the dark doors. Of course, the fireplace has been refinished, so it's lighter than the doors. So that's basically that option. And then we did do it just a little bit simpler option here with putting all five on one side and then just two here. You see the corner piece is not there. This one's a little bit less expensive, but you can see that the drawers, they cannot give everybody their own drawer because of the table supports. So that wouldn't be necessarily very convenient if you had to share. But that's basically the layout we have right now. Let's see. Oops. Sorry, I didn't mean to go all the way down. Okay, so option one, the total cost is $2,650, and option two without the corner would be $2,450. Which, and then the chairs, they're $391 each for those types of chairs.
And will they say they could match these?
Yeah, they'd be the same.
Well, I need two more chairs.
Right, and we may go ahead and just do them all if you would like to, just to make it look nice, but either way.
Well, what's your thoughts?
I like option one. Option one with all chairs matching would be cool.
Yeah, plus it keeps the chairman up in the corner.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I'm fine with option one.
Okay,
Okay.
so would it be okay to go ahead and order that, because it's
Option one,
gonna take
consensus.
several weeks to get that in. I think he says, about 4 to 5 weeks from the order to time.
I make a motion to go with option one then, picking up the extra chairs, switching on the wheel one in here all the time.
You want new chairs or 2 more?
Oh,
Just the additional chairs.
2 additional chairs, yeah. That's probably these things matching.
Now, do you want just the 2, or do you want to include those to match, or not?
Do you want
Yeah,
4 new chairs?
All of them, pick up the extra chairs too.
So that they all match?
Right, yeah, they all match.
Okay,
4.
so option 1 with 4 chairs.
4 chairs.
Okay,
Motion?
Second.
Moving second, all in favor?
Aye.
okay. And are you okay with that finish?
Yeah. This will stay here then, this will still be the presenter spot?
Yes, it'll move a little bit because we are adding a little bit of length to the table so that we can have enough space for everyone. So, but we are intending to keep that,
Okay.
yes. Okay. Okay, I think that's all I have for right now. I do have something from the engineer about the increase in cost of the contract, but I thought we could maybe discuss that when you discuss the financing.
Okay, Bryce is here. Go ahead, Bryce.
Good morning.
Morning.
We missed the rain.
So far.
So far, yeah. But if you look at the forecast, yeah. First thing we have is area fuel bids. Co-op was low on all 3 of them, so.
Okay.
Should be one extra.
Okay, we've got 2 bids. Kind of as normal, cooperative grain and supply and depth service. And cooperative grain is the low bid for all 3 areas. And area 1, 2,009, 4560, area 2, 4,348.50, and area 3, 41, 4180, for grand total 11,435.90 compared to EPS 11,676.70. So I'll make a motion to go ahead and approve the cooperative grain and supplies bid.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, second of all, I got skid steer bids came in last week. I have a copy for, a recap for each one of you, plus a copy of the specifications, and the bids are actually enclosed on the back. Trying to compare apples to apples on the skid steers, kind of difficult at times. Recap the bids are after the third.
Is there, these 3 are the recaps?
Yes,
Okay.
just to let you know.
And these are all of the total bids?
Yes, I just, if anybody wants to look at them, like I said, they're kind of tough to go through, but essentially following the recap, the low bid was the case on the TD 370. Their first bid was $55,000. If we wanted to go to essentially the 5-year warranty, which is kind of what everybody else quoted, we said we wanted the longest warranty we could get. You had $5,000 for the makes it $60,000. A couple issues with that is one of the things we were looking for was the air pre-cleaner kit. 20 minutes pulling it out. That's one way to try to eliminate all that stuff. They originally listed a 84-inch bucket as not heavy duty. We had actually requested a heavy duty bucket. They did not have the engine oil hydraulic sampling kit. We're just doing that for our benefit if we need to take samples. There's a little confusion, I guess, on my part that the dump height was less than 9 foot. I consider the dump height when the bucket was tipped down, and they all were below 9 foot. But actually, they consider that to the hinge point to go up and over the truck, and then when you dump. What we were concerned about was trying to get to the 9 foot, so that if they did back up, they wouldn't catch the sides of the truck, just for damage to the truck. So basically, they were all the same way. They were, unless we went with a way bigger and more expensive machine, we wouldn't get that. So they're all going to be that way. So and the forestry cover, the forestry package had hose covers, the steel headlight bezels, and heavy door. Again, that's another thing that's kind of trying to compare apples to apples as to what each one of them had. And that's just what we requested a forest package, especially with the shatterproof glass. That was the main things. But the protection of the hydraulic fittings and electrical fittings was a big concern too, because when you drop branches down on them, whatever, especially with the electrical fitting, we didn't want to damage that. So, and they specified November delivery. So that's that. The John Deere next was 325G, 63,793. Biggest problem was that it had low gallon per minute flow on hydraulic. We specified 30 minimum, and we're afraid if we went with any less than 30, we may have problems running our forestry mulcher as well as the milling head and stuff to that effect. So that's why we went with that. Again, they had the same dump height issue. One thing that I was told by one of the salesmen for John Deere was that they have a 14-pin package instead of a 7 for the electrical. And one told me, he said it was very difficult and all kinds of problems to get the connection between the 14-pin and the 7-pin, currently what we have. He said it was just a battle for months trying to get that to work out. Anytime you go that connection, they have to rewire everything, and can be kind of a mess. So little concerning on that. Obviously, we've got issues with trying to keep those good shape anyway, let alone dealing with that. And that was Victor L. Phillips did the case out of which John Deere was with Prairie Land Partners. They're what they call a closed county, so you don't go through John Deere Industrial, whatever it is. It's all dealt with skid steers here. Third was the Bobcat T650, 64,904. They did not have the engine oil, hydraulic oil sampling kit, but he says very easy to sample. They had the full forestry package. I mean, they're kind of known for their accessories and stuff like that. Obviously, they've been in the market the longest. Same issue with the dump height. One good thing about that is all the current accessories are currently Bobcat brand, so that they should be absolutely no problem with crossing over or whatever else. They all say that all the other manufacturers, oh, there won't be a problem. There won't be a problem. Well, you always hope there isn't. So biggest thing was the forestry package and that 7-pin connector. That's standard on theirs. So, and they did say 45-day delivery after acceptance. So I don't think the John Deere would be anything more than that. I mean, they've all got these sitting around somewhere where they can make them fairly quick. So we did receive 3 other bids for John Deere 331, which is a bigger machine, jumped up over 70,000. Bobcat T650 from Salina, for whatever reason, they were 7,000 higher than the other ones for the exact same machine. Yeah. And then we got the Caterpillar 289, which would be probably a little bit bigger machine than the other ones, and it was 73,684. Based on, we specified, I think it was a 9,000 pound weight, which is a little bit heavier than what we have now, just to make sure that we have a little extra weight for that stuff. Talking over Jesse and Tom, honestly, even though it costs a little bit more, we'd almost rather go with the Bobcat T650, even though it's a little bit more, because it basically met as many specifications as anybody, or the most. They're also known because when you open the back of a Bobcat, everything is accessible. The alternator, everything is right there. The other ones, like to service a John Deere, you have to pull both side pieces off the side to get in there to clean the radiator. It's kind of a mess. Case is kind of the same way. We're looking for maintenance and stuff out in the field when it comes to cleaning things out or whatever else. Plus, we have the 7-pin connection, and obviously all of our accessories are already Bobcat brand. So, but like I said, if you want to consider that, you can go through and look at all the bid stuff. It's all in there, but it's like I said, trying to compare apples to apples is a big thing.
What are we doing with the old one?
We're going to sell it. We're either going to go to Purple Wave or sealed bids or whatever else. Oh, down at the bottom too, for some reason in my additions, subtractions, whatever else, we missed the additional bucket. We'd actually asked for 2 buckets, and so we'll have to spend between $1,000 and $1,500 for the extra tooth bucket. So we were gonna get both buckets, and for some reason opened it up, so.
You can't use the bucket off the one there.
It was highly recommended by all manufacturers that we get buckets, quote, made more for track machines, because they have a lot more tractive efforts, they have more pushing power, and they've seen some of the older ones that actually collapse the front of the buckets. So
But you can use the old ones.
we could, yeah, but I mean, that's just what they recommended, because it's, you know, you got more digging power and stuff like that, so.
So I wonder if we use the old ones, because you can always buy.
Well,
the
right,
ones later
right.
if it don't
The
work. I'm
other
just
thing
asking.
is that when we go to sell the other one, it was recommended to have at least one bucket on it. So we could put this was actually specified as a smooth bucket with replaceable cutting edge. So we could get the new bucket with that and then take the bucket we have now and put it on the old machine to go with that.
So then we would take the 64,900 and turn it into about 66,000.
Somewhere out there, yeah. I forgot to check into it if you're interested, and we've got the money in there, but I did not contact anyone about leasing it. I would assume we could probably lease it for 3 years if you were interested in doing that too.
I know a lot of counties do a lot of leasing.
Well, it's just, you know, it's one way to spread out your payments, you end up paying a little bit more based on the time value of money, but you don't tie up all your cash.
I'd be interested to know what a lease would be.
Well, I'm just thinking down the road, what type of, I mean, we have budgeted money,
Mm-hmm.
but, you know, we need everything rocking and rolling too, so, you know, 6 months down the road, you might say, oh gee, we gotta replace this piece of it.
Sure, sure.
Or have a major overhaul or
Yeah.
whatever. No, I'm
Like I
just-
said, I can find out from those top three if you wanted what those would be and get back to you.
I'd be kinda interested in knowing what those lease terms would be.
Okay. All right, I'll get back with you on that for next week.
That suffice for you, Randy?
Just think you gotta, when you do that, you gotta take a look at how many graders, what's coming up on grader list, what's coming up.
Yeah, so I know.
On everything else, truck list.
We're hopeful if we go to get, when we sell the old one, we get a good price for it, which we think we will too, so. And I don't know if you guys have any recommendations, whether we go with Purple Wave or whether we go with sealed bids, whatever else. It's, I guess, with both Purple Wave and Big Iron, county or government entities do not have to pay a fee, I guess, for it. So that's one advantage. If you do a sealed bid, then all you have is a little bit of advertising too, but it's not like you're paying a big commission for it.
So on a sealed bid, you have the right to reject all bids, right? So if we go with the sealed bid and, well, just hold on to it.
Yeah, you could try sealed bid if we're really dissatisfied, then we could put it up.
I mean,
Or,
I'm just
and I think, I'm guessing that, well, I'm pretty sure that most of those have, like Purple Wave, stuff like that, you set a reserve. We're not gonna sell it till it reaches a certain price. So, but I can sure check into that too, but it's down the road.
But what you're saying is if we did that and it didn't bring it, we wouldn't be out anything.
Correct, yeah.
So,
Either way you go. One thing about Purple Wave, of course, we could advertise and say, hey, this is for sale at Purple Wave, but Purple Wave gets it out, a lot more people.
oh yeah, I
You
mean,
know,
they cover
yeah,
whole Midwest.
yeah. And then, that still gives the local people that wanna,
Yeah, they can get on it. So
I guess my feeling is that I know there's some local interest in it too that I've talked to, and you know, just have to make sure they're aware of it too, because the more people we get it out to, I think the better chance we get more money. So, all right, I'll get back with you on that. Edie, I talked to you 2 weeks ago about cost share, about the KDOT cost share stuff, whether you wanted to or had any ideas. Darren Neufeld went with, was in with the city when they listened to, they had a webinar last week, and he kind of came up with the same thing. He was saying, what about Nighthawk? We talked about putting Nighthawk in there as one lump sum, whatever else. I think they're going to get hammered on cost. Now, one of the things we talked about was maybe we could do it in a couple different sections, maybe thirds or whatever. Do the portion from Peabody South and around that way, and then split up the other two. That's an option. The other thing I've thought about is Kansas, basically from the fertilizer plant up to 56 with the new grain storage facility up there. I think that road's gonna take it in shorts. It kind of is a little bit, but that's only gonna get worse when I start bringing in 2 million bushels or whatever else it's gonna take to hold it. So anyway, I'm kind of working things up, but again, if you guys have any ideas as to what you may do, what we do.
Bryce, was you thinking, taking the engineer's specs of what they give us for Nighthawk, or, I mean, that was the whole Cadillac, and I just think that
There's ways to cut it down. I really think, I mean, I'd love to go in there. We've already got the pipes to replace the culverts. So that's already taken care of. The biggest thing about that is, if we do decide to go that, is number one, do we go in and have a contractor replace those? We do them ourselves. Again, it comes down to resources, what's available, how much time it would take, depending on how much we do at a time, how the culverts would have to go. I have not I didn't look at the full thing as how much bridge work might possibly need to be done. So that's something to look at. But by spreading it up, I think it's going to give us a lot better chance of at least getting something. They have $11 million available at 15% cost share, and they're expecting $50 million at a 25% share. Now, they know they're going to get hundreds of applications, if not more. I mean, Darren said, you know, he was just sitting down with people down here, and he said he could probably think of 20 between all the different small towns or whatever else around here that could use the money. So, I mean, we definitely have to apply for something.
Sure.
Just don't know what it is, because I just got a letter here. This was actually come in 2 weeks ago, but we submitted the bridge northwest of Hillsborough on Eagle, and we were denied. So we did not get our bridge for 2021. So that's another option. We could put that money towards that if you're interested. I mean, it is one of the worst 10 bridges we have in the county. It probably gets probably more traffic than any of the other ones we have. So we can put that money towards that too. So again, it's one of the things where they're, you know, KDOT's opening up money, and everybody's going to go after it, cities, counties, whatever else, to try to get some of that savings.
When you apply for that, do you have to designate a specific project?
Yes, yeah. And it's kind of funny because, you know, KDOT, they opened up this program and everything else, and this webinar, they probably had 30, 40 questions that were sent in to them electronically that they were like, well, we never thought about that, or well, we'll have to check into that. You know, everybody's throwing things out there, you know, as far as what can be done and things like that.
that
So
percent match has to stay the same, or can you up the percent?
they really didn't say. Like I said, right now you have to submit by October 13th. And then that was the other thing, where they have the $11 million. They didn't know if they were going to do half and then half again in March, or whether they would get so many and say, okay, we're just going to spend all the money right away and we'll see what's left in March. They don't really know that either. So I would think that would be obviously enticement to say that we have some money set aside that we could put towards that. The other thing is letters of interest or support from other people, or obviously from Peabody or the reservoir, because obviously that does cover up the reservoir too. So I mean, that's all something to look at, but it's just a matter of determining what or how much we want to do and then going with it. Like I said, we have to. It's supposed to be in by October 13th. If you don't make that, then it goes into the March selection. But again, they couldn't guarantee or make any assertion as to how much or what money was going to be left. So now the $50 million is it's one of those things where it's kind of been appropriated or budgeted towards it, but it's not like it was guaranteed. I guess they kind of said the exact $50 million. It's one of the things where this is what's been proposed, and like everybody else, having to go through that process. So, but there was basically delegated money that was going to be out there for us.
To the commission, would the commission look at dividing Nighthawk into 2 projects and cutting that in half and then apply for that?
And then leveraging more funds toward each proposal to try to enhance that application as much as we can.
Well, and then here's something else to throw in there is that I talked with KDOT, and this fall in November, that's when they typically have their asphalt projects. They're gonna overlay 15 south of US 56, clear down the county line, and they're also overlaying 150. So we will have some asphalt contractors in the area. So if we could turn this thing around that quick and get it lead ready in the first part of next year after we can't, I suppose, how that would work out. We probably still want to go out to bids, but you would think the contractor that got one or both of those would want to do more work while he was here. The whole point is it costs you $30,000 to bring in a plant. And so if they're moving in a plant, it doesn't cost that much more to do more work here. So we could, ultimately looking at it is while we're doing some of this work, we could add more work on our own and, eventually save money as far as unit costs. As far as that goes, it would still be more money out. So, but, and I'm guessing, today's the 23rd, so probably by, next week, we really need to make a decision so we can turn that around and get it going in. So.
And who was the ones on Nighthawk consulted with?
Cook, Platt, Strobel.
Cook, Platt, and Strobel.
I think they come up with $7 million for the whole thing.
Yeah.
And Norm Bowers did tell me, he said, man, they way overestimated that. And I talked with Ron Madison that said that as far as the full depth reclamation and stuff like that, he said, we talked about that before, we could do that with a double chip seal for probably in the neighborhood of $110,000 a mile. But honestly, if we were going to go the effort, especially on Nighthawk, maybe on Kansas, I would really like to look for maybe 1.5 inch or 2 inch overlay on top of that, just to give you a lot more bang for your buck. So, but obviously, we can determine whatever we want to do.
But you're talking still going down and touching some base and building the base.
Yes, Nighthawk, we're at that.
Yeah, that's what was proven by the
Yeah.
samples.
Yeah.
That we've got to go down and touch some base with it.
Yeah.
That road this late summer has been getting worse by the way.
Well,
Yeah.
and we're finishing up with patching down there on 90th and 120th, and we're heading up north, and we're going to be up there for weeks. We're just trying to get everything covered up before we get any bad weather, but it's a crapshoot.
I'd be interested in splitting that project in half somehow and trying for a base and maybe an overlay just,
Yeah.
on that, but a good rock, but get the base down.
Well,
We gotta
it's like
do something.
anything else. You don't build a house without a foundation.
Right.
You can't build a road without the
Right.
base. So one thing I could do is maybe get some rough ideas together and bring it up to you next week and just show you these are some options we have. But like I said, and the other thing that I'm kind of wondering about Nighthawk is I think we've got, it'd be a great time to possibly do some safety enhancements at the 190th in Kansas, or 190th and Nighthawk intersection. That's our worst intersection we have. Then we can do the same thing with Kansas, because that's only going to get worse with the amount of trucks going both ways. Then there's always the option going down to the fertilizer plant. Do we continue to go one farther down south too?
So what's your feelings, Bryce, about, we have Cook, Platt, and Strobel's, about another engineering firm to apply for this, to work something up for half commission? This is just an idea that's thrown out here. I've heard Bryce say that, and I thought it was awful high for the $7.5 million, but maybe another firm to, I don't know, it's money spent. I don't know what kind of
Well,
we're looking at.
and I
The
think
report should be there for us, so.
it is, yeah. And I just say I can do an awful lot of stuff just off that report.
Yeah.
See what they specify and stuff like that. Now, again, one thing I was talking about, if we've already got the culverts purchased that they recommended be replaced, do we go back and do that with our own forces, or is that something we can subcontract out, because they can do it so much faster than us? Plus, that really is our forces. So, but let me come back with some stuff for you next week. Give you an idea of kind of what we're looking at, different options, stuff like that. That's actually part of the 5-year plan anyway that we need to get worked on. So,
I know since I've been on the commission, we've talked about Nighthawk
Yeah.
since the get-go.
yeah. And it always comes down to that big chunk of money.
And
Yeah.
number two, we've talked about do it in phases,
Yeah, yeah.
so.
I mean, it's tough for every county to get a situation, how much money can you put towards, yeah, and not, no disrespect to the other roads, you put $5 million on one road, what does that leave you for everything else too? So without going out and bonding and or whatever else, so.
Well, I'd like to stay in the 2 to 3 million, 2 million, somewhere up in that range,
Yeah.
2 to 3.
Well, and obviously,
If
you know,
do
if
a
we
base
could,
job, that's one
yeah,
little smaller.
yeah, but if we could, you know, if we could get to the point to where we get the cost share, you know, whether it is the 15 or, you know, again, I think the biggest thing, the 15% is gonna be pretty tough with only $11 million. You know, our bridge that was denied, I think we were looking at like $450,000 total cost. Well, we didn't get that, then we turn around and, you know, so it's, when it comes to that stuff, when I was talking with Kenny Blair with Cook Fire Strobel, he said, you know, hey, and KDOT told me the same thing, if we typically do get one every other year. Well, we didn't get it this would be the second year we didn't get it, so kind of frustrating, so. But, just a couple other things, I'm gonna be attending the MCC meeting in St. Joseph, Missouri, the Missouri, Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas meeting with the county officials, so I'll be up there. Today is Ernie Graves' last day, he retired, so we got a little donut thing for him up there this morning, and he said he's gonna be coming down to the courthouse, so I'll stop in, whatever. So, we kind of have a plan. We have, one of our guys is interested in, want to work on a blade, so we're training him now, so hopefully to say we lose Ernie, we've got a guy that's interested in taking over, so, hopefully he works out. He seemed that we had trained him this last week, and he seems to be doing pretty good. So, obviously that's our big concern, is trying to get those guys out of those blades to keep going on
I
that.
wouldn't consider staying on part-time, would he?
Huh?
He wouldn't consider
We
staying on.
can't talk about that. No, absolutely cannot, according to keepers violations and everything else. So, no, that's always, you know, informally, jokingly talked about, that trying to bring guys back, but they officially can't come back for about 6 months or something like that. So, but, and then for follow-up meeting on Friday, and they'll contact us. Sounds like we're looking at meetings for Tuesday at 10 out there at their building. That was not been confirmed because they emailed them out this weekend, and they're still trying to confirm that. So, but at least I think it's a step forward to try to get some, you know, more hands-on, face-to-face communication out there. And if we need to, we go look at stuff. So, but that's kind of the plan, kind of thing. But I think that's it. Unless you have something else.
You didn't break anybody loose to get on a mower yet?
No. Honestly, we've had mowers. We've had a mower going all year. We just can't stay ahead with all the rain and grass on the paved roads. Been growing so fast. We've got a lot of people called in, which I appreciate, with intersections that are overgrown, stuff like that. We've been trying to go out there and get them. We're in the process of getting the Tiger boom mower back up and going. So it doesn't make any sense that it's sitting here. If we're not going to use it, we need to get rid of it. If we're going to use it, let's get it fixed up. And
That's the last one left, right?
the Tiger, we got the Tiger and a John Deere.
Yeah, but the last Tiger left.
Yes.
We had 2 of them.
Yeah, I've heard they've been quite troublesome, and I didn't realize that it was it's like a '97 model.
Yeah, it's,
You know, so it's definitely seen some use. So that's the other thing. Look, I still would like to possibly look at a flail mower too, but we just haven't got to that for, you know, all this other equipment.
I know with as big as the sunflowers are, it's kind of like cutting trees.
That's crazy. That's a guy said one of the stalks he had was like 3 inches in diameter. Never seen such thing. You know, they're trees. It's not like you can go out there. Well, that's the other thing. Extremely hard on motors. You know, I mean, that's whacking those things off. It's almost like you need our weed eaters with the carbide tip blade on the bottom to whack them off. So, and I've never seen sunflowers throughout the county like this. It's just incredible. So, but honestly, we've talked about it before, just trying to find people. But honestly, we're at the point we have guys mow all year long, and mow and weed eat and just everything to try to keep it up. And I've talked with Bud several times about it. Obviously, this spring was unique too, but trying to get ahead of that from the start. You know, get out there, spray ahead of time, don't let it grow, and then hit it once or twice during the year. Because once you get it knocked down, it's so much easier down the road. You kind of develop a pattern when you hit it so many times. The grass, the weeds, someone kind of give up. And so, but, yeah, I wish I could just find 10, 15 people that want to use part-time or whatever else, and they just go out and mow or weed or whatever, and
I did pass him over at Pilsen,
Yeah,
as I came
Yeah.
today.
yeah, he's, you know, Ronnie's been out there, he's been doing a great job. They just, you know, we had one of our summer employees, and he worked fantastic. He's a farmer kid, man, he was cleaning the deck off every night, doing a great job. But he had to go back to school. His dad wouldn't let him skip the senior year of high school, so stay working. So, a little shock. Anyway, we're like anybody else, we'd love to have some guys to come in, and like I said, even if it was just a day or a couple days a week, just put people in seats. You know, so we're possibly looking at 2, maybe 3 more retirements by the end of the year too. So
That's just it, you gotta have some attrition there.
I believe, didn't I get an email, a text from you that said you might be interested in going part-time?
Sure, I said, just put me on.
Yeah, so, but, so if we contact you later on, that, hope you still
I
remember.
can tear up stuff just as good as that.
Oh, no, that hurts. That hurts.
No.
So, but, anyway, you don't have anything else? That's all I have. Okay.
Thanks,
All right.
Bryce. Okay, transfer station financing discussion. Randy asked for that to be put on the agenda, so you want to start?
Well, we keep sending these guys out to get their job done and stuff, and I just, you know, we gotta find some cash somewhere. Or we sit and wait, we send another deal in ask for a definite answer on taxes, sales tax, whether they would allow that. I would think that a decent letter from us explaining how we did the jail and stuff, would at least get an answer. I don't know what kind of time frame we're looking at, when did they come back and convene, and
Are you talking about getting an attorney general opinion?
yeah, mm-hmm.
It's my understanding that if you submit a request for an attorney general opinion, it's could typically be several months before you would get a response back. So,
And then if they did agree with you, you'd be looking at a special election, I'm guessing.
Yeah, that's a bad thing.
the other-
Additional cost.
another option that it sounded like you might be talking about would be going back to the legislature.
That's
Because
what
if
I'm-
you're saying
when they
that they're
convene.
coming back in session, is
Right.
that what you mean?
Yeah.
So if you go back to the legislature and ask for clarifying or
Yes.
corrective legislation, you know, they
Corrective
could do that. But it is a process.
Yeah.
Again, it would take several months
Either one.
to complete, and
Mhm.
you could potentially do a special election
Yeah, it-
once that's corrected.
Mhm.
So,
Well, I'm not a gambling man, but I guess I would bet if it was out there, the public would vote for it, but that's just my opinion. But in the meantime, what other options we got? Don't want to deplete the bank. Bank's always good to have a little bit of funds there. We've already depleted some of our road funds this year by not putting them back in for next year's budget. So I guess the other one that we have then is seeing what a lease payment would be for that, for 2-3 years or whatever, however many years it would take. I don't know.
Well, I was thinking about 15-year
15
lease
years,
purchase.
15 lease purchase.
But, you know, that may be something that we have to send out a feeler for too, whether that's, banks would even have any interest in looking at a bid for something like that.
For that many years.
Yeah.
and I would suggest that if you're going to do a lease purchase for something that size, that you would work through George K. Bone to have them help bid that out
Right.
more broadly than just right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we'd have to be looking at a regional bid.
yeah.
So I'm wondering if maybe we could have a little bit of a work session. I didn't have much time to do this, and I would be the first to confess that I am a little bit on this budget confused because it's very complex. But it's going to be my mission between now and next budget time. I will know this budget and I will fully understand it. I don't care how many classes I have to take or how much I have to spend. I will fully understand this budget process. But just in my green stage, as I'm looking at this budget, and I just think if we get together, I think we have quite a bit of buckets of money, a lot of like in cash carryovers and so on and so forth, because the transfer station is already in stages. we can, I think we can come up with the cash to pay for it, I really do. And I have talked to a couple bankers, and, what we need, see, I think we still have, I'm just gonna throw these numbers out, I'm not exact, I'm close. Bud still has almost $500,000 in his budget to continue paying for part of the phase. And we have some risk management funds and so on, almost $500,000 there. And then in other different buckets, and I have to perfect this a lot, I know, but I really think if we put our heads together, we can go through and we can find enough money in the stages to pay for this and not have to go out and finance. Like I said, I didn't spend a whole lot of time on it this week for all the other things I was studying, but I really think that we should look at this option first. And even the bankers that I have spoke to said that, you know, just because the interest rates are low right now, you just don't, you know, they're not advising anybody just go spend just because you want something to spend. So I am still, it's just not the way I was ever raised or grown up, that you just go charge. I still say if we really put our heads together, we can look at this budget and come up with money. I really do. And we wouldn't have to touch our grand reserves from our levied tax funds. We could go to the non-tax levied funds and see what kind of buckets of money, and I use the word buckets, but cash carryovers and things that maybe we can tap a little from each and not devastate any one of them. I mean, it's really something that I think we should at least try or pursue in the meantime.
We need to remember though, we've got courthouse security coming up also.
Well, I understand that too, but that's kind of a different, that's another big subject too, that I don't know how that's gonna go. But I also, and I agree with Randy in a way, we have to keep a certain amount of reserves, got it. But I just don't know when the rainy day is gonna come up, but I'm still saying, I think without tapping into our actual reserves, and I think for 2020 it's about 6 million, give or take, between 5.5 and 6 million is what we'll have for reserves, and I'm saying, okay, let's try not to touch that. But I'm thinking in the other ones, in the other areas, we can tap, because we're not looking for a lot of money. We're looking for $1 million, a little over $1 million, whatever it is. It's not like.
It's gonna be close to $1.5 million.
Okay.
I think if even spending some of our money out of that deal, if it goes to $2 million total. Let's look at it one other way, Diane. I'm gonna interrupt just a little bit. It's another way that we was able to handle $100,000 loans. I mean, monthly, yearly payments for 10 years, first 10 years that I was here. And, or even 8 years, I guess, 05 to 12, something like that, 7 years. But what I'm getting at is, you know, the only thing that we've done different is put the recycling in. We don't know where recycling's going and stuff like that. But that's something that's taxed for us to spend for transfer stations and trash and stuff like that. Everybody pays that. If we was to go back to this financing deal, when you said that number of years, I'm trying to equate it to $100,000 a year. So that's something I know we can handle.
That'd be $1.5 million, yeah, 15 here.
So that's one thing that, without touching reserves or anything, that I really, I just know that fund could handle it before, and if we can't get back to handling it again, we better check out and see where the problem is.
So you're saying that we could handle a payment of $100,000 a year?
That's what we did for
$100,000 a year?
Yes, in
So-
that fund, because it was not paid for any by any taxpayers at that time, except for on your $81, and then we've raised it to $100 now for residential. So, and that's, I think we can handle that, but if we keep expanding recycling and spending money there, you're not gonna be able to. Because that's where the recycling money's come since then, since we've cut that payment out. So,
And see, I'm looking here, and I'm looking at kind of like the risk management fund, which we developed not too awful long ago. By 2020, we should have close to 400,000, a little more than that, about 430,000 in that. We have the 165,000 that we designated in 2019 for MCC EDC, which went broke. We have the 150,000 that we got back.
wait a minute, they didn't go broke. I think you
Shut down.
misstated that.
Okay, so it is
Stated
all-
correctly.
Went to bunk. That's Brad Jones's
Yeah.
words. He said they went to bunk.
They ceased operation.
So, We have that money. Now, I know it's put into the general fund, but as far as I know, it hasn't been spent, so. But I'm just saying, again, that proves my point right there, because just what I cited right now is almost $750,000 almost, give or take. And I didn't spend much time on it at all. So I'm gonna leave it at that. That's where I stand, and I just think that would be the more wise, financially responsible way to handle it.
But it gets back to what Randy was saying. The transfer station needs to be able to stand on its own.
And they could pay us, they could pay back into the general, or they could pay back that $100,000 a year or more. Because I would expect that if we took it out of these funds, instead of paying it to the bank with interest, they would pay it back to us. And you'd be surprised if you're not obligated with, if you're not stymieing yourself with payments out there to all these different, and it's just like a home. You don't just go buy a car because you want it, and the interest rates are low, because then you have a payment. So I just think it's foolish to go out and finance when we might do a little bit of research to see what we have. Because we do have the other projects coming up, and we may need to finance them.
Could we have the bond attorney do some legwork for us just to see if there is a possibility of interest in some type of lease purchase?
What do you mean? You want him to?
I mean, we don't know if there's any interest at all.
Oh,
Whether-
you're not
whether-
saying, okay. I'm like, what do you mean interest?
Interest.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, I was misinterpreting.
Oh, interest.
The way you were using the word interest.
Yeah.
Not dollar interest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether some banks are interested.
Yes.
Whether there is put it this way, if there's a market for a 10 to 15-year lease purchase.
Yes, I can accept.
There you go.
I would sort of like to stay
I
at
restated.
10. I would sort of like to stay at 10 if possible, if we did something like that, because it was, I guess when I first sat here, I thought, when's that gonna be over with? When's that gonna be over with? Well, I was so happy when it was over with, and right away we started seeing, yeah, we're gonna get back into some sort of project because the thing's falling apart. So that's, yeah, I'd like to hear somebody's opinion out there that knows something. I mean, no offense to Diane in any means. She's a banker that she talked to may be right on top of it, but there's a lot of money out there that people do things with that like to see what their feelings are. So, K-Bond, I don't know if our guy that we usually work with, George K-Bond, whether they would do something like that for us or not. Do you have any idea?
They would certainly bid out a lease purchase for us.
I know they would do that. I don't know whether they could do a letter of interest or something to that effect.
I'll ask them.
So do we need a motion to move forward with that type of request?
I'd like to know that before I rule it out anyway. I mean, I'd make that motion to have them investigate and see what kind of interest is out there for a 10-year to, you said 10, 15 year?
10 to 15 years.
Yeah.
Do you want to say something?
Along with that, if you're gonna inquire, see if they have any penalty for early payout, then you guys can kind of work together.
A lot of those are incorporated in the contract, so you would know, but that's a good question. Okay, we've got a motion to move forward with some research as far as the financing side goes, and I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And that's just researching.
Yeah, yes, just research,
All right,
yeah.
aye.
Just to see what's out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Clarify.
Yep, yep. Wasn't that signed, sealed, the deal.
Okay. Janine, you're with us, okay, very good. We'll let you go ahead.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And on the flip side, I just printed out the investment rates this morning. And when you're loaning money out, it's going down.
Yeah, yeah.
So. Yeah. There's always good and bad on all those things. I had a little bit of time, so I just played with some information on the tax publication to see how one year compared to the other. I don't know if you can follow I have 2017, we had 640 plus $1,000 uncollected. It went up to 683. But the abstract also went up, so the delinquency rate against the total abstract stayed exactly the same, so. It's kind of interesting that the delinquency shifted from the country properties really went down and city properties went up. And it's just kind of interesting to do. I'm gonna file that back in my mind to do it each year.
It's sad that we have that many delinquencies.
It is sad that we
I
have
mean, you
to.
would think there would be better laws in place.
I haven't checked. Now, we've actually run the redemptions, and so there are no current taxes at this point in time. So I haven't seen how many of those have been paid.
So Jadine, I have a question. When you talk about your publications, to your publicate, you advertise every year the delinquencies.
Mhm.
Is there any way to incorporate in that advertising those delinquents that are delinquent 2 or 3 years back? You know, like you might have John Doe delinquent this year, but John Doe's also delinquent 2 or 3 years. Is there any way to incorporate that? And I know that probably costs more money. But a
Doug, when you
lot of
publicize
times-
that, don't it say some back years on there, it's like if some of them's 4 or 5 years behind, or 3 or 4? It don't say that on your publications?
It doesn't say it on the publication, it says it on all the notifications they get.
Yeah, but I thought it was on, I
No,
thought
I think
revenue
people
papers.
should know. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not just a one-time deal. This person, whoever it
And I think
is way back.
what's in the publication is current year.
Is the current year. Because what we're doing is we're moving the current year into delinquent tax, so we have room for the new current year coming on. So, because there's only current and delinquent tax
Yeah.
in our realm. So,
But I mean, the average citizen probably looks at that list and thinks, oh, that's what they owe, period.
Yeah, because when I looked at last year's, or 2017, and now I get the 2018 list and 19, I'm assuming they probably paid those back taxes, or I could assume that, when in fact, we don't know.
well, we will know on those because of
Is that, there's probably a footnote in there that says this is a current, is there a footnote in there
Yeah,
that
it says
specifies
exactly.
that this is current year?
Yeah, but that just tells you what you're publicizing, so people know it's current year.
Right.
So there's no way then to somehow,
That'd be a whole different
I
list.
mean, even if you just put one more column right there, say second year or third, whatever. I mean,
This meets the statutory requirement. I hate to add something to it. And,
What, is it a violation of privacy?
huh? No, it wouldn't,
Well, then-
I mean, taxes are public record.
Then it's just a matter of opinion. If we told you, asked you to do that,
I can see what our software company can come up with.
I mean, I'm just wondering, I've had several people ask me about that, you know, how, about some of these people that just don't pay taxes.
Well, and if it's past 3 years, then they will go into the tax foreclosure sale.
Well,
How
yeah,
about
I
those coming
understand
up?
that.
how about this question? To Diane's statement here is, some people pay the 4th year just to stay off of it,
Mhm.
and they're always 3 years behind.
Yes.
How many of them in our county do we have?
A fair
Quite a
number.
few.
Yeah, people are educated, they know that if they pay that 4th year,
Yeah.
they stay off the step tax foreclosure sale.
But once a case is filed, then they have to pay everything, so.
They pay late, they always pay, but they just cause extra grief. How many of those do you got?
And what is the interest when they pay that? I know you do charge, there's interest. But
Right.
it's a, if I remember correctly, it's just a minimal amount, isn't it?
Let's see.
I mean, if it was a substantial
is.
penalty,
There is now. I think it's, pulling statistics, I might be wrong. I know that it's 10%, and if it's over $5,000, then it goes up to 15%. So it does rack up, yeah. But,
And you know,
hopefully they'll get it high enough so it costs more to, I mean, maybe we'll go up in the people's priorities of paying things off.
you know, that hasn't been the standard that you set, I mean.
Janine, I know on tax foreclosure sale, when that property is sold to a new buyer, they have to pay upfront the delinquent tax. They do not have to pay the.
Those taxes go away.
They
It's a
just
total-
totally go
It's a
away.
total loss. All we're getting is somebody that we hope will pay those taxes.
Is that by statute, we can't collect any of that?
That's why we try so diligently to collect it before, because then we're assured of all our taxes.
Because, you know, it ends up being substantial number of years.
It seems to me
Yeah.
it's gotta be something we're not tapping into.
And-
I don't know.
And what we've been told since, by a former county attorney, is how do you get a blood out of a turnip?
In the end, you just want to get it back onto the tax rolls.
I mean, yeah, I mean, that's what it comes to, because the biggest one that I remember feeling at Florence School was the Florence Motel. Both of them. There's two of them there that's been, and then, there's been others too, but, you know, they just, and valuation, or the assessed value, whether that's correct or not, when they get into that kind of shape, I can't go all that, but.
You know, I know going down the road, there's some large entities in Marion County that, what if they would get sold on? I mean, that's a substantial loss.
And you know, we all pay for that because look at that number, $640,000. So here we are as a county trying to dig up money for the transfer station.
Mhm.
And if we had this money right here,
Yeah.
I mean, it would certainly help. So they do cost us all money. And it's unfair to those of us or those who do pay their taxes. And it's like a double standard. It's just
We give them,
ridiculous.
you know, every opportunity we can. They can make monthly payments to catch up. We do everything we can to try and help.
One other aspect that I hear from is people that's waiting, that has that property sitting beside them, they're just waiting for the tax sale. Now, we do try contacting the surrounding neighbors when they go up for tax sale for that, but there's people out there always looking, well, are they to that third or fourth year yet? They're asking that question. I said, well, I guess you're gonna have to go find out from the treasurer.
And they do come in.
Yeah, there's a lot of people do ask, stuff like that, but it'd sure be nice if once a year it was out in the paper, oh, that person's 3 years behind.
Is there anything we could do with some type of incentive to coax these people to do an escrow? Say they're 3 years behind. If they agree to do an escrow, we would drop a year for the taxes or something. And I don't know if that would work or not, but just trying to think of some incentive to actually get people to commit.
Well, that would give me an incentive to miss a year or two,
Yeah.
because I'll get one free. Pay two, get one free. I
Yeah,
mean,
if you escrow it,
pay-
get it escrowed.
I mean, I
don't
You'd
know.
have to have all the taxing entities sign in on the plan.
I'm guessing the ones that don't want to pay, don't want to pay.
so back to the law. The law says we have to wait 3 years, right?
Well, 2 years for vacant and city property. So if there's a building in a city, it can be sold after 2 years. 3 years if it's a homestead. We usually just wait 3 years so we don't have to go through everyone proving that what we're selling is their home.
Okay, so we do have the option of 2 years. It's just one more.
You have an option for 1 year too, but it's on only specific items, I thought.
And I think we should take advantage of every option. I don't think anybody should squiggle by.
I just went through the case, you can look back, I can't remember. It's
Really?
listed out
I'm
the 1
trying
year,
to-
2 year, 3 year.
I mean, if we're serious about enforcement and serious about collecting taxes, we want to take advantage of every opportunity to get these people to pay. I'm not in favor of giving bonuses and freebies and stuff to people who are delinquent. I'm more in favor of just say, you know, buck up here and pay your share.
I would go to the extent of maybe agreeing to the registered letter or something to that effect, but when you get from the stage where you're gonna take it to there, that's the part that I do not agree with the state and stuff, or the taxation people is, okay, let's got to the 2 years and we're gonna take it to get rid of it. Then the county attorney takes over, and what I've seen in the past in Marion County is they've got a private practice and they get paid for working on that. Hannaford's abstract and title gets paid, and that cost to prep that property to get rid of.
Is more than what we get out of some of the properties.
Yeah.
It is always more. Well,
Usually, not all the
Yeah.
time, but 90% of the time it is. And so, it's not good business to spend, I mean, it makes you want to sit back and let it go because you're spending, and I'd hate to put a dollar share, but we've asked them before to come up with an average, but, you know, just for them to look at it, 75 to 100 for one, and then it's usually 200 to 300, or, so you got 400 to 500 off of
I
each
thought it was close to
property.
500. I thought
It
that's
could
what
be
it was.
somewhere up in that area after you decide that you're gonna do something with it. That's another 500, if you take 20 of them away, $10,000 right off the get-go. So it really,
But those people that are keen to pay every fourth year, the fourth year's delinquency, those people obviously don't want to lose their property, so something like that could give them a good kick in the butt to get paid up. Now, maybe some of the people that don't really care just want to do it, you know.
that's what it seems like. The
Maybe
ones that's
they're
gonna
invested
pay
in
will
it.
pay, but the ones that's not, they're just gonna sit there till you do it.
And there's some of them that are struggling so hard to try and hang on too, so.
And is
Yeah.
it, you know, on those tax sales, is it required that we have a full-blown title work done?
That's what I've been
Or,
working.
okay, I just wondered, you know, if you couldn't turn those over to an attorney firm to give you a title opinion,
Well, because you're giving the next owner a clean title,
right?
you could leave yourself liable.
Because you go to a title opinion, you can save a whole bunch of money.
Yeah.
When you buy a house, the title search is always buyer or seller either splits it or one or the other pays.
Right.
Couldn't the county make it, if you buy the property, you gotta pay for the title search?
I don't know.
That's a good question, Dave.
I mean, if I had to buy a house
Right.
from Jonah, you know, we're gonna negotiate who pays for that.
You gotta watch that guy when you buy property from him.
Be
Yeah.
the same as a
Yeah.
private treaty contract where the county's paying half, self, and the buyer would pay
Or
half.
sometimes the buyer has to pay all of it.
Well, it just
It
depends on
depends
how
on
the
how you
contract.
negotiate.
I don't
If you
know,
want
is
the
that?
property bad enough, you'll buy it.
Usually what the county has done in those instances, if they're trying to recover those fees, is you set a minimum bid on the property to potentially cover that.
And there's also a fee. that
$500.
If they're redeeming it, they have to pay the court costs.
They try to get the cemetery, nobody bid on
Well, we raised that in the last.
We went to 500 that one year.
We
and then-
went back within the last 2
Yeah.
years, do we need to go higher?
That would be two separate things though, right? If you buy it at the tax sale for this amount of money, and then when you get your documentation, then divide up all those, like he was
it. It's in
saying.
the contract, I mean.
Yeah, so that would be in addition to, right? That's how
It's
that would be worked out.
like when you go to an auction, they say, this is the rule, you know, you pay 20% before you leave, this is the rules, if you want to bid, you have to
Okay, so
do
you
this,
make a
this, and
bid,
this.
and you know you're gonna have to pay so much of the fees for the transfer of title and so on.
When we sell one, we give a closing statement to the buyer, breaking out price, you know.
I've never had one.
Okay, I was gonna
You
say,
know,
I
like,
haven't
just like, kinda
seen
like
one.
you'd have on a private treaty contract.
But there was a sale 2 years ago in Peabody with a lady's property that sold about 10 to 15 properties. And something new that I had never seen, to me it was new, but I guess they've been doing it everywhere, is after that sale, you had to pay the commissions, it was a commission to that realtor or salesperson. Yeah, it was an excise, you paid $2,500, I know of a lot of people, the bottom bid was around $2,500 for 4 or 5 properties. Then they had to pay another $1,000, $1,200 for the commission for that sale, on top of that $2,500. So there's possibly another thing that could be added. I'm not gonna say that couldn't be, because that was something new that I'd never heard of until that sale in Peabody. There was
It'd just be nice to be able to recoup some of that you've lost in 3 or 4 years of taxes, or whatever, get it auctioned.
I think that's something interesting I'm gonna bring up is some of the trainings that I go to, how other counties handle these type of things.
Oh, it'd be a good question, see what they do.
Yeah, see what some of the options that they offer, because this is exceedingly
Well, we got a
disturbing to
roundtable
me.
coming up. Do we have a roundtable coming up here this fall?
Oh, in Wichita, we have one.
Regional meeting.
No, that's at that meeting, but I'm talking about our local.
regional meeting.
Local.
I
Regional meeting.
know.
Have you
I
heard?
haven't heard anything. They usually, I usually hear like 2 or 3 weeks ahead.
Yeah.
so.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
another
who's got,
too.
who hosts the next one.
I know there's some counties that have never, ever had a tax sale. And it's one of the larger ones, so.
Because they collect money better, or
Huh?
because they collect the money better?
Is that the reason why? I mean,
No.
it seemed to me as though.
What you just said, this is the answer. The larger ones, because there's a demand, and those people will go talk to the person that owns it and try buying it that way sometimes.
Or they'll put them in a land bank and sell them that way. So,
Seems as though there's gotta be a better way. Anyway,
but they're, you know, in a city, there's more of a demand than.
Yeah. Somebody always wants that property in the city. Out here in our rural county, there's 6 lots can set beside you sometimes for years and never be a pain in the rear until you finally get to the tax sale and then, you know, it's just, but look at Lehigh this year at the tax sale.
Bunch of them got sold.
Yeah, I mean, that was more interesting to me this year when Lehigh's all sold, that there was interest, and it hadn't been.
Maybe there's people coming on that will take on those projects, which would be wonderful.
Oh, the new commissioner's taking them on. Is that what you said? Is that what you said?
I said, remember me, there's people coming
Oh,
up that
I
will
see.
take them on. I better specify.
I misunderstood that. Not that I try giving any John away to anybody.
Hey,
Is your bid process still working pretty well, getting bids from all the county banks?
the most, well, if they don't match the state rate, then the money gets sold, so. Been working. Except now the rates are going down. Can't have everything. Okay. There's
Thank you,
nothing
Janine.
else?
thank you, Janine.
Been interesting. Enjoyed visiting with you this morning.
Thank you.
Okay. I guess Brad is not with us yet.
Can we talk about this engineering document? I forgot to talk to you about it during this financial discussion. Can you just pass this?
Okay.
So you might remember that Randy Purdue was talking about an additional $15,000 for the engineering on the moving of the electrical lines. But when I was looking over the records and the minutes and our contracts, I see where, if you look at the top, we did approve the 26,000 pre-development or pre-design. We did approve this 148,500 for the construction and all of that. But I did not, and this one I've never even heard of. At the bottom, they're requesting plan changes for heating and air conditioning on the new office building in the amount of $1,000 of an increase to their contract, which I don't even remember them discussing or asking you for an increase on that. We did have the land farm permit, which we knew that engineering on that was gonna be $1,200, but we never had an official approval from the board. And so I had asked them to, when they present the information for this $15,000 approval, to also include that, because it was done, but it was never officially approved, but it was discussed by the board. And then an updated cost estimate report, he's got $550 on here. So this was, at the bottom, there's 1,000 plus this 550 that, to my knowledge, was not discussed with the board as a proposed increase in services. I mean, obviously they did do it, but
Throwing in a cost for that updated report that I remember. I'm trying to think back about the heating and air. I remember we talked about it.
We didn't know there was gonna be a cost for an updated estimate report, did we?
no.
But I would almost assume that that would be standard. I mean, every time we ask them to do something, it's gonna cost. I mean, that's just kind of a given, I just think.
So,
And there was never nothing said about the office being another 1,000, was there?
not that I remember
No.
in a meeting.
I thought it was gonna be wiped off, the additional cost of wiping out the subfloor heat.
Right, I didn't remember there, that the engineer ever indicated that they would have an additional charge for that. So, anyway, I do need the board to approve an increased contract. But I at least wanted to bring those two items to you to, at least for you to discuss. I don't know if you want to discuss it with them, but if it wasn't clear that that was going to be an increased cost, or maybe it's $1,500. It's not in the scope of the project, it's not a huge amount, but.
Did you email him about that? Did you question, you didn't question?
No, because I just got this, and I had asked him to include, because I said I didn't have any approval of the land farm amount that had been increased. And so I asked him to include that in his document, because you all discussed it in the meeting and said, yes, we're gonna go ahead, but I never saw a document come through for you to approve with that additional $1,200. And then we knew this 15,000 was going to be coming through, but I was surprised to see this $1,000 and that 550 also listed here. So, because I don't believe we've had any additional approval of any of those costs. So,
I
anyway.
don't know if they just take for granted it, whenever they're sitting here talking to us about something that they're throwing in additional. I mean, is that a given, or
Yeah.
should we be asking them, when they appear before us, this is gonna cost you some extra. I mean, that's just a disclosure, I guess, but maybe it's just a given.
Well, and in this, project, there have been so many changes, course changes, obviously, but in my history of dealing with projects with the county, generally, if there has been an additional charge to the engineer, that's been disclosed, that it would be additional, if it's outside the scope of the contract.
PKMR, is that a company that we're looking at?
I don't even know what that means. I'm sorry, I don't know what that means.
Well, I see it's for heat and AC on new office buildings, so I'm assuming that the contractor that had the bid is a PKMR.
So that's what they're charging us because we went from the floor heat to the overhead heat?
I'm
So they're redesigning?
I'm assuming that, Diane, I'm assuming, I don't know.
And see, I did call over to Call Valley, and this was, several weeks back. And, because when we were concerned about how the cost was going up from original, I wanted to know some of the reasons why. And of course, he explained to me, because of the economy is flourishing, people are not hungry now, so they're not giving the breaks that they have. Plus the cost of materials have risen and so on and so forth. And then we do make a lot of changes. Now, they try to keep all the changes that we've made at a minimum or whatever, and they try not to include that, but we have made a lot of changes. So they design it, and they go back and redesign it, and they design it, redesign it. And, at some point in time, I assume and I expect that they would charge us for that.
When we
Time is their
review
money.
when we review for changes, though, that's just to see if they've done an A job or an F job.
What?
Well, I mean, they throw out set of plans out here and I don't like them. I call that an F plan.
Well, and I know that you have made
Yeah.
a lot of changes, yes.
And
but-
so,
But
that's,
somewhere they're instructed on basically what to put into those plans. I mean, there's been a lot of input into how you want them to make those plans, and then they make the plans, and we see them in front of us, and then we continue to make changes. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's just, in a nutshell, that's an overview is what I was.
I didn't think there was any cost on changes sometimes until either a major change in their plan that you've set out for them, but if it's some, like a 8-foot door on where it needs to be a 16-foot door, that's not my fault. I mean, it's somebody else's fault, and I don't want to pay for it.
Well, and generally, when you're doing your your design document phase, that's when those changes are made.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I could see if you're making, if you completely change direction, like, I mean,
Sure.
which
You would
Laura has
expect
done, but,
additional.
yeah.
You know, going forward in this type of project, you're gonna have changes, I would guess. I mean, just the little bit that we've done, been change.
Is that I'm getting there? 'Cause you guys did take a deduct of 2,500 once upon a time on
Yeah.
there that I thought was a bad price for a deduct. I thought you should have got more.
Well,
But-
and now they're trying to charge an additional $1,000 for changing the engineering on that heating and air.
On the
And
heat.
that was not something that you all agreed
So
to in
the
the
net is
meeting. So to
1,500.
me, I think that charge is possibly something that you could have a discussion with them
Okay,
about.
let me ask this question. Updated cost estimate report, is that $550, is that a valid for this commission to pay?
I would say yes. I want to ask Jonah, when you do a contract, you go in, suppose somebody build a new house or whatever the project is, or a new business, and you give them a bid, because you're gonna do X, Y, and Z, and so on and so forth, and a couple months down, oh, we don't want that, we want it over here, we want a little larger light, we want a little lesser light, and that happens multiple times. I know talking to other engineers, I'm sorry, not engineers, electricians and so on and so forth, that gets exceedingly costly on your end of it.
It will, depending on when it comes in the point of the contract. So it depends if, so say you want to move, for example, a receptacle from here to there, but we still have just open studs. Most of them are not going to hit you with that.
Right.
But once you put sheetrock on the wall, now it's all of a sudden, it's a chore. And the wire's already there, the box is already there. Yes, you're going to buy it again. So
Yeah.
it's, if it hasn't been done yet, then it's usually just a simple move. But if you
Yeah,
ask
that's
them,
what I got.
if they do the work and then you ask them to do something different,
I
you're
mean,
gonna
that's the
get a
biggest,
double bill.
that's the biggest complaint that I ever get from, like, my son-in-law, who's an electrician, and gets into these projects and get these plans, and then the woman wants a bigger bathroom light or something, and then they gotta redesign and redo different stuff. And, yeah, somebody's gotta bite that cost, and naturally it would be the person making the change, because, oops, we done what you asked to begin with. But, so I'm just wondering if this is pretty similar to the
But
thing.
usually that cost is put up front before you agree to say, yeah, I want this bigger option. Usually it's a good general contractor or somebody will put that up there in front of you before you make that decision.
It'll cost you $100 to move it.
Right, so that, I mean, this fee in my mind should have come with that deduct, so it should have been a $1,500 deduct, and you could have made that choice at that time, whether or not that was good enough.
I thought we was told in here it was going to be, we should wipe it off and stuff. But anyway, what I'm getting ready to say, if there's no problem with the commission, is I'd make a motion to approve the three payments below with $1,000 plan changes and leave that out and let them question us why we didn't pay it.
You mean the plan changes on the heat and air?
Yeah, just leave that out, not pay that, and pay the others, and that's why I asked about the 550. If that's, I'd make that motion to do that.
Well, I'll second that, that's reasonable.
Okay, we made a motion then to approve that with the exception of the plan change on the heating and air of $1,000. All those in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Thank you, Tina, for your work.
Okay, Brad is with us, so we'll turn it over to you.
Okay. In reviewing where we are in terms of the overall process with Expedition, there's one area in our code that leaves a little bit of a gap. And primarily, I mean, I'll just cut to the chase with that. When you're dealing with a transmission line versus distribution, which is a main line, and heck, now I see them, where I didn't a few weeks ago, going down the road, whether it's on a county road or a state highway of some sort. They are in the right-of-way, or in the easement of that right-of-way. KDOT generally regulates all of those, like along 77, for example, because we can't even go out there and change speed signs, we can't go out and change this way to Marion, whatever it may be, without their permission. But the way our code reads, we don't really specify that that's going to be maintained by them, or if we want to overlay like a CUP on top of that. I'm not even sure we can, I'll be honest with you. It's just something that was a little bit of a hole in our zoning regs. And I don't care which way we go, I'm not advocating one way or the other. I just think planning and zoning needs to look at it so that we know for sure if we're going to require anything additionally in the way of a conditional use permit for 20-plus miles along Highway 77. We need to make sure that that's clear in our code and that we're going to, or we're not. And it actually, to some extent, extends to, we're silent also as to the county road easements as well. And both of those need to be addressed, as far as I'm concerned, or at least looked at. And it's really a planning and zoning question. It's not something that I'm asking this board to make a decision on or us to educate ourselves on. That's why you have planning and zoning. But I guess my recommendation to you at this point is to, unless we're going to say now, we'll just leave those as things that are regulated by way of either the utilities or KDOT on state highways. If we're going to do that, fine, then there's nothing for us to do. We'll just leave it alone. But if we want to at least clarify whether we do or do not want to regulate on those things, I recommend we ask just to send the direction to planning and zoning, and I think Sharon's even aware of this because we talked about it briefly, and ask them to take a look at it and come back to you with a recommendation as to which way they want to go on that and why, and see if that is justifiable from your perspective either way. It's just something out there that isn't very clear, and so it's difficult at this point to know when I'm looking at it, all right, what do we tell anyone who wants to put in a transmission line? And the difference between transmission and distribution, as I've always seen, it's very much like a trunk line or a main pipeline, which you don't tap, very much like those that you see go along Highway 50. They end up in a really, really large substation, and then everything dovetails off of that into distribution lines. This is kind of the same way, but we don't define that either in ours, and it should be. So something that I don't know if they've had their October meeting agenda set yet or not, but at least it would keep it moving because they're going to have to at least have probably October, November, look at it, make a determination. Who knows how long that might take? It might be one meeting, it might be more, and then come back to you. So at the very minimum, I'm thinking it's a November kind of a thing that we can get back to you. So I thought it probably ought to be something we raised and discussed, and see if you were willing to let them take a look at it. I shouldn't say let, direct them to do so.
No, I think we have to.
I do too. I mean, honestly, I just think even if it's applicable in this case, and if we're not going to do it, we're going to continue to have a little confusion and that sort of thing. I don't think that's in our best interest.
I agree that needs to be clarified.
So I would say it's probably just direction, to
Send it back to planning and zoning.
ask them to put it on their agenda as soon as possible, take a look at it. And if they need anything else, I've got maps and grids and fairly detailed kind of a little memo I can give to Sharon about when I was looking at it, I ran into that. And it's come up before. I mean, it's been discussed. It was discussed previously, as I recall. I think Pat may have mentioned that there's at least some question about that. And so when I ran across all of this, I looked back and thought, yeah, that hasn't been addressed in each state.
So actually, there's a couple of specific roads maybe that is more
Yeah,
to the attention.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm particularly interested in the ones, if you'll recall, we were looking not too long ago about steel track equipment on Kansas roadways. It's not permitted.
Right.
Well, I called to the state, and the answer I finally got is if it's on your county roads, we'll leave that to you. But if it's on the state highways, if it's on 15, if it's on 77, anything like that, 50, then you betcha, we've got a real interest.
Do you know, this is just a question, do you know back, and I don't know, they had some sort of confusion, I was reading something a while back about when they did the old Highway 50, the new Highway 50, all this other type of stuff, and it kids and dogs and whatever. Has that ever all been turned over to the county? It has not.
Not that I know of.
And that's kind
As
of
part of this, I
right?
was curious, yeah.
See, I have information on that too, but then I couldn't follow up on it.
Yeah, and I never got a firm answer, and you talked to the state engineers, and well, let me look at that. Well,
Yeah.
they're not finding a firm answer on some of those things either. They just kind of went by the wayside because there's been no one screaming about it.
Right, right. Well, I would certainly make a motion to send that back to planning and zoning for their full review of it. Do I need to say that any better way?
No, I think that's sufficient, unless you need any more direction. That this is on that, CUP issue regarding a public right of way, or KDOT,
Okay.
like 77.
Okay.
I'd second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That was primary. I'm just trying to keep all of that rolling along. I thought we needed to talk about that. So
Thank you for working on
I'll get you a bunch of stuff.
that. You have anything else for us, Brad?
No, I spent much of the weekend on this. So that's it, honestly.
Okay.
Wait a minute.
Go ahead, Brandon.
Is there setting up any more meetings between us to talk about payments, stuff like that?
With Expedition,
Yeah.
Pat just walked in
Oh.
apparently. Yeah, I think the intent from what we talked about on Friday, next step in this process balls in their court in terms of agreement drafting. And then, I know there'll be interim meetings. And then that should be coming back to you just to keep it rolling along. The other meetings, I don't know what's transpired. Bryce is here to find out what they're doing in terms of the mill.
We had an update this morning.
Oh, okay.
From
Got it.
Bryce.
Great.
We did have an update that something, I think, tried Tuesday that might want to do here the week.
Yeah, I've always said, all day.
I'm just trying to keep track of it, so
Yeah.
I know if I need to step in somewhere. Okay.
Was it Tuesday? Did you write that down?
Yeah, he said Tuesday at 10.
But that,
But
is it
he didn't
tomorrow?
know if it was, I don't think he knew.
Whether tomorrow.
If it was, yeah,
Right.
he didn't specify that. They're going to be Tuesdays at 10, but he wasn't.
Tuesdays will be their weekly meeting.
Yeah.
Possibly. I think there was another email sent out today about possible Thursday.
Okay. Subject to change.
Subject to change, yeah. But they sound like they were trying to work it out.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just kind of stay in touch with Bryce. I know
Okay, good.
what's happening.
But that's the question I had.
Yeah. Okay. That was the final agenda item. So open it up now to the public comment. Anyone?
Well, I'd like to, I think there's some communication issues that like that. I talked to Diane last Wednesday, and it dropped the call twice, and it sounded like it's talking through a fan and everything. Is there something in the contract with them that they have to mitigate that somehow? I don't even know if they could mitigate it.
So what do you defer, I've been complaining about that for months and months. Now, they actually turned the power on up there, probably, actually, what was it, February, March, or something like that. I use my cell phone all the time. In fact, it's my main source of communication. And ever since those wind turbines have been turned on, my communication is horrible. I've been talking to Tom. Tom and I met actually 2.5 years ago when we were both running for commission. And we talk almost every week county business, okay? And we've never had a problem. And I just use it since he brought it up, okay? But anybody, if I'm up there close to those wind turbines, I'll drop them calls right and left and get disgusted. You can't. And I don't buy the cheapest phone on the block. I pay a lot of money for my phones and a nice monthly premium to keep them in service. And it's really frustrating. It's like, and I know Yvonne and them, they can't even use their cell phones. They're in the heart of the wind turbines. And I read in the contracts, and I'm not but you're here. So I read in the contract that they will do the best they can for communications and service and so on and so forth. What options do you have to fix that? Because it obviously interferes. I've never ever had a problem as long as I've been here in Marion County with my cell phone. Well, that's not true. When I had an Apple, it was terrible. But now that I have a better cell phone and stuff, it's so much better. But now the wind turbines come on, and now what?
First of all, we've got a deposit, communications deposit, that we've offered to post, which I think is unusual, has not been there previously, which gives you some control, some dollars to go ahead and fix it. But there are relay stations that they will put up commonly if there are issues with for cell towers or other communication problems. They're solvable. but you know, have to spend some money. Maybe it's another full tower that has to go up in terms of cell
So,
tower.
how do I implement that? I mean, how do I access those dollars? I mean, what were you saying?
What we
You
have
got me so-
proposed is that
That's
those
what they-
dollars would be in your control.
Okay, but those cell phone, I have a cell phone tower right up there, right close to me, right there on 330th. How close do they need to be then?
Well, it depends on what company that is.
Verizon?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure, I think it's Verizon.
There's all kinds of cell towers out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's 4 different flavors.
Yeah, so I mean,
Yeah, a lot of it depends on the
Some of
company.
them are side by side.
what I'm saying is, I've lived there for a long time and never had the problem, but now I do. So, I mean, and usually whenever a problem develops, you always say, what did you do different? So
Tom's problem.
that's why, and every time I do, I say, oh, turbines.
Tom could move closer to you.
Two cans of string.
That's quite all right, thank you. Pass on that option.
I could move closer to you too, but I ain't doing that.
Well,
Okay,
I'm not very far from the Verizon towers either. I changed providers and now I ain't in trouble.
You got away from Verizon.
I got away from Verizon. It was terrible before we had towers.
But you know what, that's true. Now, you went to which, what, Cellular? US Cellular, is that
Yes,
what you
I
went to?
have no
See,
trouble.
and you know, every time you go to a cell phone, they have a beautiful map, and here's where we're all red because we really focus there, which is Durham for Cellular One. But then you take, or Cellular, whatever it is, US Cellular. But then when you move it over to Tampa, then you start getting sparse. So, and the same way with Verizon, you know, here it's really good, but then you move away over here, it's not so good. And, but like I said, I've always had good service before. I just thought, since I read it in the contract, I didn't know what your option to.
Let me give you an option that might make some sense. In fact, since we haven't built the wind farm yet, in advance of building the wind farm, we could go out and they could test service at various spots.
Mhm.
And then we could come back and do a test after the wind farm.
Can you include camp in that test?
Why don't you just give us your cell phone and then we'll make sure that you got service anywhere.
No. Okay.
No, I think we'd be happy to do that. We understand that, you know, that's why we put that in there. When you've got your new 9/11 communication system, we want to make sure that there's no problems with that. And there's, you know, there are testing companies for everything now. And it's not tremendously expensive to go ahead and get the pre-test and the post-test.
Yeah, well, and you know, to me, cell phones are the way for the future. I mean, we don't, landlines are kind of a dinosaur anymore. So to hinder cell phones, it just seems to me like it's backwards a little bit, that we really can't impede on our cell phone services. People count on them for emergencies and just because they're going to call their neighbor.
We agree.
Okay. Anyone else? Floor is open.
For the past few months, I've really been looking at like the history of Marion County, and I had some questions in regards to like the old highway system. The old like where Highway 50 goes now, it actually used to run up Old Mill and then head east on 110. Has that been cleared from Kansas Department of Transportation?
I think it's
We just talked about it.
Well, what she's talking about is completely different than if you had just where they moved over along the Highway 50, existing 50.
Well,
This
56
system's from 40 to 50 years ago, or I don't know, it's more.
Yes, and
Yeah.
then there actually was a North 50, which would be 56 now. So, back in the history books, 56 was Highway 50 North. You can actually go check the deeds books, and there's a map, and yeah, 110 was actually 50 South also. So.
It curved out through the country. I'm thinking that was done away with in the 40s and 50s, somewhere back in there, I'm thinking. I'm
Well,
not sure.
yeah, and another would be, you know, the 56 and 77 interchange doesn't exactly start until Marion. So there's some boundaries there in the road right-of-ways and everything on 110. guys use 110 as? Is it your place to get the right of ways? If Kansas Department of Transportation has the entire 110, even Old Mill, been signed off on all the way to 77 from Kansas Department of Transportation?
Well, best I know of, it has, but, I mean, I don't know
So
about
might be
new Highway 50.
good to check, just in case you guys are gonna be hauling turbines down a US highway, whether or not it was 40, 50 years ago, would still be something to check out.
And then our zoning
Who
system.
would have all the records on that KDOT, or would that be federal? US.
Yeah, right.
Some of both, but also should be recorded in most instances of record at the local county. Some of it isn't. At least not that I can find.
Anyone else?
Just add to that, I mean, if you're gonna do all that checking, sunflower used to be 77. So, I mean, this could turn into a whole wall of worms.
I've actually spoke with Kansas Department of Transportation, and they said it is a no-no to haul turbines down any of their roads. So I'm supposed to get back with them unless you guys want to.
Yeah, so limitations, statute of limitations is not expired. There's 2 years last statute of limitations, so it's probably done expired.
There isn't statute of limitations, they said, of being expired or anything. So it just, there are some quit claim deeds down 110 that I've researched, but I haven't dug into anything other than the Catlin plat in my area that I live in.
Is there any reason to do any research on that?
Yeah, unfortunately there is. I already started on that process. Again, some of it, we're not finding it, then you go to the state, and then they have to do theirs, see if they can locate anything. But generally, my presumption is most of that's filed a record in the various counties. And that if it isn't, it should be, if it exists, that is.
Well, if we maintained the roads for all these years, then wouldn't we be responsible for them? Yeah.
Yeah, you get into a whole bunch of different arguments very quickly.
Anyone else? How's your chance? Is the end of the agenda? I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Brad, I wanted to talk to you a little bit, so don't run away.
Don't run away.
Don't run away.